Most everyone in the world has heard of Lourdes and the apparitions of Our Lady to Bernadette in 1858. Even someone who only has a casual interest in it can tell you something about it. But what most people don't know is that the seer of the apparitions prayed a particular rosary that is all but forgotten today. Hers had 6 decades. This seemingly trivial detail will take on greater significance as we explore the backdrop to it and place it in the time frame of the mid-19th century. The French Revolution at the end of the 18th century decimated the Catholic Church in France. Its structures were destroyed or confiscated by the state to be used for military purposes. The property was sold as priests and religious were driven out or simply abandoned, with no one to maintain it. By the 1850s, when Bernadette was a child, persecution toward Catholics had eased somewhat under Napoleon III, but Freemasonry held enormous power throughout the country. In spite of this onslaught, the Catholic faith remained incredibly strong among the laity. A staggering 98% of the population were baptized Catholics in 1850. In the Pyrenees alone, there are an estimated 1,000 churches, and this is only on the French side. If you include the smaller chapels, the number rises to nearly 2,000. This is based on the number of towns and villages where there is at least one church or chapel per locality. Add to that the Benedictine and Cistercian monasteries that still exist, the convents of nuns and private oratories, the countless wayside crosses, the statues of the Blessed Virgin. You get a picture of a country that is profoundly Catholic at the time of Bernadette. The people of this region prayed what was generally called the Rosary of the Pyrenees, or the Pyrenean Rosary. It stretched from the Basque region to Béarn, Bigorre, Ariège, and Andorra. Their rosary consisted of the same mysteries as the ordinary one, but with an additional decade added at the end for the poor souls in purgatory. Where this custom began is hard to unearth, but it had to have been as a result of the needs of the local people and the customs found in the Pyrenees at this time. After the apparitions, French sculptor Joseph-Hugues Fabiche was commissioned to make a statue to grace the niche where the lady stood. He visited Bernadette in Lourdes and was told the vision was a young girl about 14 or 15 years of age, dressed in white with a blue sash and yellow roses on her feet. When she saw the finished work, she disappointed the artist immensely by telling him flatly, "No, it's not her." Fabiche also forgot to include a rosary the lady had with her. It was Father Blanc of Lourdes who offered his own, and this is the one that graces the statue today. After Bernadette entered the convent of Saint-Gédard in Nevers, she remarked that the statue the sisters had in the garden was more like the vision she saw than the one at the grotto. She would very often come here to meditate. On the esplanade that faces the Rosary Basilica, there is another beautiful statue of Our Lady called the Crowned Virgin. This was made by a company in Paris called Maison Raphael. They produced some of the highest quality statues and other religious artwork of their day. They were unaware of the Pyrenean Rosary and sculpted theirs in the traditional manner. In 1880, the company admitted, "Our first model of Our Lady of Lourdes had only 5 decades, but at Bernadette's insistence, who declared she had seen 6 decades during the apparitions, we had to change this first model." But this begs the question, how could Bernadette have been so sure she saw the Virgin holding a rosary of 6 decades? During each of the apparitions, she fell into ecstasy and could only see the lady, a Caro as she called her in her dialect. At one of them, for example, she inadvertently placed her own hand over the flame of a candle she was holding. Dr. Dosus, a prominent physician in Lourdes who was within feet of her, timed it himself, noting that the flame had lapped at her fingers for 15 minutes without it fazing her. In this state, we can hardly believe that Bernadette took the time to count the number of beads on the lady's rosary. The answer to this dilemma comes from a statement made by Bernadette after being questioned about the first apparition. She was asked, "How long did the lady stay?" She replied, "Long enough for me to pray my rosary." "What did the lady do while you prayed?" she fingered the beads along with me on her own. Bernadette's rosary was made of wood held together with string. It had 6 decades. The lady had enough beads on her own to finish the rosary when Bernadette did. Thus, she brought a 6-decade rosary with her. Why all this is important is connected to what the lady said to her during the apparitions. On February 25th, the Virgin told Bernadette, "Penance, penance, penance, kiss the ground for sinners." Our Lady here is giving a command to this 14-year-old girl to mortify herself before the people present, for the sake of those whose souls are in peril of being lost forever. And by appearing with a Pyrenean rosary, she is giving her approval to the faithful of this region to pray for the poor souls in purgatory. The first is active, the second passive. Today, the Rosary of the Pyrenees is almost entirely forgotten. It is never prayed during the candlelight procession at the shrine, neither is it said in any church or chapel, ever. At Fatima, Our Lady told the children that many souls go to hell because they have no one to pray for them. At Lourdes, she demanded penance from the people coming there, and in silent witness, she brings her Pyrenean rosary to the grotto, where she still continues to urge us not to forget those souls who cannot help themselves, the souls in purgatory.